All right. Good evening. Good evening. We are now calling we're calling our Board of Education meeting for September to order. We'll start with the recitation of our vision statement. Every school will be a thriving school that prepares every student to graduate from high school, college, career, and community ready. Tonight, we also have a resolution that the board will vote on to accept. And it is the resolution titled Declaring Dane County a Sanctuary for Trans and Non-Binary Individuals. And Board Member Simkin will start us off, and then respective board members know where to pick up. Thank you.
2023 Res 074, declaring Dane County a sanctuary for trans and non-binary individuals. In the last few years, states have advanced a record number of bills that attack LGBTQ rights, especially transgender youth. So far, in this year's legislative session, state lawmakers across the country have introduced more than 430 bills to restrict fundamentals like healthcare, education, and the freedom of expression for LGBTQ people, according to the analysis from the ACLU. Most bills have advanced to committee, and nearly 24 bills have been passed into law. That overall tally is up from last year, according to the Human Rights Campaign, when 315 bills were introduced. The American Civil Liberties Union has tracked legislation which takes many forms, including bills that attempt to limit the ability to update gender information on IDs and records, such as birth certificates and driver's licenses. Bills that attempt to undermine and weaken non-discrimination laws, allowing employers, businesses, and hospitals to turn away LGBTQ people or refuse them equal treatment. Bills that restrict how and when LGBTQ people can be themselves, limiting access to books about them and trying to ban or censor performances like drag shows. Bills that target access to medically necessary health care for transgender people, ban affirming care for trans youth, create criminal penalties for providing this care, and bills that block funding to medical centers that offer gender affirming care or block insurance coverage of health care for transgender people. The public accommodation bills seek to prohibit transgender people from using facilities like public bathrooms and locker rooms. Bills that prevent trans students from participating in activities like sports, force teachers to out students, and censor any in-school discussions of LGBTQ people and issues.
Trans Americans are 4 times more likely to be victims of violent crime than their cisgender peers, according to a 2021 study. Trans youth, who have been the primary focus of anti-trans legislation this year, are experiencing a mental health crisis. A 2022 survey by the Trevor Project, a suicide prevention group focused on LGBTQ youth, found that 86% of trans or non-binary youth reported negative effects on their mental health stemming from the political debate around trans issues, and nearly half had seriously considered suicide in the past year. In this hostile environment, some cities and counties across the country are taking steps to support and protect trans kids and non-binary individuals.
Now therefore be it resolved that the Dane County Board of Supervisors firmly states its commitment to protect transgender and non-binary individuals and believes that access to healthcare is a fundamental right, and all people in Dane County and the state of Wisconsin should have access to all healthcare, including gender-affirming care. Be it further resolved that if the state of Wisconsin passes a law that imposes criminal or civil punishments, fines, or professional sanctions on any person or organization that seeks, provides, receives, or helps someone to receive gender-affirming care, such as puberty blockers, hormones, or surgery, the Dane County Board of Supervisors urges the sheriff to make enforcement their lowest priority. Be it further resolved that Dane County be considered a safe place, a sanctuary for transgender children and adults and their families. Be it further resolved that the Dane County Board of Supervisors urges all municipal bodies and school boards in Dane County to join county government in support of our transgender and non-binary residents by adopting similar resolutions. Be it finally resolved that a copy of this resolution be sent to Governor Tony Evers, the Dane County State Legislative Delegation, U.S. Senators Tammy Baldwin and Ron Johnson, the Wisconsin Congressional Delegation, all Dane County town board chairs, village presidents, and city mayors, and all Dane County school board presidents. So we've heard the resolution. I move that the Board of Education support the resolution declaring Dane County a sanctuary for trans and non-binary individuals.
Second, Nikki Vandermeer.
Any discussion? Board Member Muldrow.
I want to thank my fellow board members for introducing this resolution. I want to thank Board Member Simpkin for her leadership and advocacy for our trans and non-binary students. And I want our educators to know across the state that your identity will not be used against you at MMSD.
And I also would like to add just gratitude for the Dane County Board of Supervisors for getting the language for this resolution crafted and written and sent to our school board for adoption. So thank you to our county board supervisors. All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, that passes 7-0. Thank you. We'll now move into public comment. We have 3 registered speakers online and 9 speakers here in the audience tonight. We'll start with our online speakers.
Our first online speaker is Christine Harms.
Hello, thanks for having me tonight. Can you hear me okay? All
Yep,
right,
we can hear you.
thank you. I'm here today to talk to you about smaller class sizes. Last school year, I started with 27 second graders on my roster. I am a veteran teacher, and I will tell you that I was ready to quit by day 2. The sheer volume of 27 kids, along with the needs, was impossible to deal with. Luckily, we did receive an extra section in October, and my class size went down to 19 students. I can't express to you enough about how much lower class sizes matter. I was able to build strong, meaningful relationships with each of my students. I was able to meet the needs of all my students, and the test scores proved it. For one example, I had a student who on their FastBridge score went from a 23 of barely reading to 123, which is above proficiency. This year, I have 26 students. We were told not to expect another section this year because if we did add a section, our class sizes might be lower than a title school classroom, and that couldn't happen. Can we stop and think about this statement? Do you see what's wrong with it? It shouldn't be one or the other. Both classes should have lower class sizes because that's what's best for our students. At the beginning of this year at our EL training, I asked the instructor to help me figure out how I was going to meet with all of my 26 students. She looked in complete shock that I had that many second graders. She polled the room to ask if anyone else had that many students, and they all, except my teammates who had 24 and 25, shook their heads in horror at the fact that someone would have that many students. I will leave you with one last thought. Myself and many teachers have stated that they might even rather give back our 8% raise for a promised set lower class size each year. That's right, we're willing to give up our raise because that's how much it means to us to have lower class sizes. I cannot speak for all the teachers, but I want you to know that I'm hoping that the policies around class sizes are looked over and changed, and I consider you making these changes right away. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Our next speaker is, just a second, Bridget Nolan.
Hello. Thank you for having me this evening. I have been a teacher in the Madison School District for 30 plus years. And in that time, I've seen many trends come and go. But whenever a new initiative was required, whether it was a science curriculum or a reading curriculum or the amazing letters program that we were all trained in, whenever money has been needed for those integral things, the district has always been able to find the funds for it. In my opinion, I feel that smaller class size is just as important as curriculum and materials and supplies. I can't think of a better resource than people resources, people that work with children every single day to meet their needs and help them love school. I hope that you will commit to the hiring of a new superintendent who has proven their ability to lower class sizes in the best interest of students in their previous district, or that are committed to doing it now. I love my job. And if you asked any teacher what makes them love their job, is if they feel like they're doing an excellent job. And when you have so many students, you don't feel like you're doing a good job. You're problem solving all the time. You're reworking schedules. You're doing anything you can to meet with children more often in small groups and one-on-one, but it's just very, very difficult. Thank you for having me this evening. And also, as teachers, we wonder what data would be helpful for you to have from us about why class size is so important. There's so many data points that I could share with you, but it would be helpful to know which ones would be most useful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our final online speaker is Ray Mendez.
Thanks. Good evening, board members. Thank you first for the sanctuary resolution. I appreciate that you're doing the right thing. And as a parent, I strongly support you in this matter. To go backwards a little bit, I want to move forward from it. I apologize for my recent harshness around the bus issue, but I still remain concerned about the follow-up from the situation. I think we can learn from this. Here are some details that you may not be aware of. Some buses were late, which is acceptable, considering this is a national driver issue, a national shortage. However, it was a spectrum of problems that we experienced. Our particular child's bus and some others on his route did not show up for pickup or drop off for 10 whole days. So there was no bus at all. The communication was somewhat chaotic. Not somewhat, it was chaotic, with parents sometimes waiting for an hour and a half and having to make last-minute decisions about whether and how to get their children to and from school. You can imagine the cascade of disruption from that. Anyway, after 10 days of waiting patiently, I suggested that the district or first student get vans or find another way to get the kids to school, a solution rather than just complaining. Another parent provided details about the route that corrected a glaring mistake that the bus company should have caught in the first few days. They said a particular stop from one stop to another would be 4 minutes and was physically impossible. The minimum was 12 minutes. Anyway, the van finally showed up. Problem I have is the parents presenting a concrete solution to the professionals to act. And as importantly, we had to get the present solution presented with an unpalatable option, which was to threaten that they pay my Uber bills to get results. Why do parents have to present a solution with a threat? That was my question. I would appreciate it if we can all learn something from this. I was told that 1,000 families or so were affected. Yes, there is a national driver shortage. And yes, 1,000 families were affected in Madison, but we can learn where to shore up our weak points from this experience by going and looking at what happened and figuring it out. Learning from the experience, a mistake, is more important than moving forward without doing that, I think. And some learnings I have, I will be kinder in my advocacy in the future. You can hold me to that. Some general learnings from this experience. We need to first acknowledge that there may be a problem. I think we have to acknowledge those things. We need to present solutions if we point out a problem. I've been in plenty of meetings with parents complaining without a solution. I think we all need to present solutions along with the complaint. Each of us needs to look for solutions instead of blaming another department. I found that happening a lot with the 40, 50 emails, phone calls that happened. If there are, this is important, if there are indeed incompetent people or vendors around us, we should train them to work with us or let them go. We can't say things in private and not act in public. I find a lot of that, and I'm willing to speak in public like this, so we got to say it or we won't fix it. Here's a more important learning from all this, and it relates to our search and expectations of a new superintendent. How we handle the bus situation showed me that we have a few root problems that we need to face. Whether it's Madison, Wisconsin, me, this community, doesn't matter. We have some root problems. We cannot hand a new superintendent a chaotic solution and expect miracles. We need to be prepared for one. We want to fix our root issues before that person joins us. Why else would they want to stay with us for 5 years or more when real change will happen? Thanks for your time. And by the way, I have a meeting with John Henning, the CEO of First Student, later this week. Our schedules are not in sync so far. I'll report back to you after that meeting, and I'm happy to provide more details that can be followed up on if we need to work together to look at what exactly happened to fix it. Thanks.
Right. Thank you to our online speakers. Our next speaker will be Nick Lemon. Sorry if I mispronounced. And after Nick, we'll have Marcy Fritz.
Good evening. My name is Nick Lemon, and I'm a second grade teacher at Olson Elementary. You just heard from my teammates, Christine and Bridget, online. I spoke to you in the spring about the need for ensuring smaller class sizes in our district. Last year, I started the school year with 24 students in my class. About 6 weeks into the school year, another section was added to our team, and my smaller class of 18 students thrived. This year, I once again have 24 students in my class. My teammates have 24 and 26 students respectively. We have been told that there will be no additional section this year, although I have yet to hear a reason why. Our kindergarten teachers are also struggling with class sizes of 21, 23, 23, and 24 students. One of those classrooms is led by a first-year teacher, another is in her second year. Last year when I spoke to you, I told you about the 2 fifth grade teachers who left our building after having sections of 30 and 31 students. These are not appropriate class sizes for our students. I fear that our building and our district will continue to see high staff turnover if these numbers become the new normal year after year. Some recent news out of the NBA made me think of the challenges our district faces when we don't prioritize appropriate class sizes for our children when it comes to teacher retention. No doubt you've heard of Giannis Antetokounmpo, the star player and 2-time MVP for the Milwaukee Bucks. He brought a championship to a franchise that struggled for many years and is often viewed as one of the most hardworking and humble players in the league. However, many were shocked to hear that he had informed the Bucks he didn't intend to sign a max contract with the team unless there were guarantees that they were committed to winning another championship with him. For those that are most passionate about their work, compensation is not the only factor. A promise to collaborate and work towards a shared vision means as much or more. Although I still have a lot of hard work to do to be considered the district MVP in the classroom, I have committed the last 15 years of my career to MMSD because I believe in what we stand for. Give us the help we need to be MVP teachers for our students. Create a new board policy that lowers class sizes and puts hard caps on them so that we can work together to attain the lofty goals of this district. Only this will help us attract and retain the best teachers to serve our students. Thank you.
Marcy, and then after Marcy will be Evelyn Boyle.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Marcy Fritz, and I'm the school social worker at Hegel Elementary that is located on the west side of Madison. Over the past 5 years, Hegel administration has heard safety is a large worry from families and students that reside within the walk zone that is adjacent to the intersection of Raymond Road and McKenna. Families and students share that they don't feel safe walking to school in this area within the 1.5-mile distance Madison is deemed walkable to school. Hegel wanted to know more, so we connected with our neighborhood police officer along with officials in the city of Madison at Traffic Engineering. We also facilitated discussions with families to initiate a walking school bus. As part of this work, MPD and the city of Madison shared data from a 2019 traffic study along with a crime density map you all have, showing the amount and type of crime in this area of Raymond and McKenna. We continued to have conversations about the safety concerns raised by our families with district leaders in transportation and with Doyle during their building walkthroughs and site visits. In October of 2021, during a site visit with the superintendent, assistant superintendent, and other Doyle staff, Hegel staff shared the MPD data along with attendance data directly related to safety concerns in the walk zone. MMSD leadership asked for Hegel staff to share all the data via email so they can investigate further. That same school year in February, there were 12 emails between MMSD Transportation, Hegel staff, and the city's traffic engineering department around this hazardous walk zone. At the end of the 2021-2022 school year, Hegel was notified that the possibility of a hazardous walk zone was going to be discussed with the new director of transportation. Hegel was also notified a meeting would occur between Hegel's admin and the new transportation director once DPI had received the application. At the beginning of last school year, on September 6th, Hegel was notified the bus stops would begin picking up the next day, and there would be 3 bus stops to support the students within an unusually hazardous walk zone. The 3 stops supported around 25 students and were added to an existing bus route, so no additional buses were needed. We immediately saw an improvement in attendance for students in the hazardous corridor. Families saw in action that their voices were centered in our work. During Welcome Back Week in August of this year, Hegel was notified that the 3 bus stops were revoked. They were stopped. When asked why the bus stops were being revoked after existing for an entire year, we were given a list starting with the following quotes. Review of this item arose as the previous paperwork for the request was never processed. Working with parents to safely cross traffic lights would also be reasonable. Since we were notified of the revoked bus stops, Hegel has been begging for meetings with all the decision makers at Doyle that were already involved in the email exchanges for the past 4 years. We have asked transportation, the Office of School Safety, social work leads, and the superintendent's offices to discuss what the criteria is to create a plan, and we've had no response, which is what brings me here today. In the meantime, families that depend on the 3 bus stops to safely get their students to school that depended on it for an entire year are left with the message that they're sharing with me that MMSD does not care about their safety. As all of you know up here and everyone behind me, the district's refocus on ICS centers the dismantling of systems that result in marginalization or oppression. He believes the revocation of these bus stops directly goes against our work in RJ and the district's ICS work. An important piece in all of this is last Sunday night, there was an incident involving a stabbing and gun violence right in front of the intersection of one of the revoked bus stops, and young school-age children were present. The need for these bus stops still exists. I'm asking to please allow Hegel to collaborate with Doyle staff that have the power to complete the application and ensure it's properly submitted. I've come here tonight with a call to collaboration and to show our families their voice and the safety of their students are centered in everything we do. Thank you.
Thank you. Evelyn, and then we'll have Linda Bernhardt.
Hi, my name is Evie Boyle, and normally you would not see me talking in front of this many people, but I am because the cause is important. I'm a fifth grader at Randall Elementary School. My teacher is Miss Faber, and I'm in the fifth grade classes in my school have 29 students in each of them. Last year, I spoke to you when I was a fourth grader, but because I had 29 kids in my class. I'm disappointed that you didn't hear me last year, so now I'm going to say it again a little bit louder. 29 students in a class is way too many kids. Smaller class size is important to me because all kids don't learn the same way, and that's a fact. Teachers can't help everyone at the same time with how big our class sizes are. Small class size is important to me because there isn't enough space for that many kids in one classroom. We don't have room to move around, and we never have all the materials we need. There is nowhere to take a break or just a quiet space in general. Small class size is also important to me because I want my teacher to be happy to come to work and to come home from work. My teacher is trying very hard to help us all, but there's no way for her to feel good when she can't do it all. Please think of me and my teachers when you think of class sizes. We deserve better. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my speech today. I hope that you have heard my words of wisdom and remember how important class size is to kids like me. As my principal tells us every day in the morning announcements, remember, the choices you make today shape your world tomorrow and my world tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Abby. Linda Bernhardt, and then next on deck is Stephanie Patton. Sorry for the mispronunciation.
Good evening. I am Linda Bernhardt, a former Madison student, a retired Madison teacher, and currently a substitute teacher in the district. I'm here tonight to ask you to approach the governor and the legislature in making changes to a part of Act 10 that affects me daily. It, however, does not only affect me, but you, our scholars, and our community. As a retiree from the state, there is a stipulation that I am allowed to teach 880 hours per employer or district in one calendar year. What that actually means is if I go over this amount of time, my pension is pulled. I spend literally hours weekly figuring out my schedule and how much I am allowed to sub. It shouldn't be this hard. Because I had inadvertently gone over my 880 hours due to class coverage I had been assigned last year, I taught more than 880 hours. I was notified in June that I had to completely resign as a substitute and reapply 75 days later, which I did. Then I had to figure out when my calendar year started. Last year, I started subbing on September 1st, so I could not start this year until September 2nd. Next, I figured out how many hours I subbed last September, which was 11 days or 88 hours. Working from the 892 hours, because I had been gone over my 880, I had to take 892 minus the 88 hours I had subbed last September, came up with 804 hours. Then I figure 880 hours, the amount I'm limited to, minus the 804 hours, which leaves me with 76. That's how many hours I was allowed to teach in the month of September, or 9 days. I continue this process every month, looking back at what I did a year ago. I have contacted the governor, I've contacted representatives, I've contacted the Supreme Court justices, I've contacted everyone I can think of. In a time when our education system needs teachers, including substitutes, it is time that someone with a more powerful voice than I, a superintendent or a school board or a combination of those, reach out to the government to look to amend this part of the law. They are not limiting the amount of money I can make through the state because I can do these 880 hours for multiple districts at the same time. It's just limited per employer. I am assigned a part-time long-term job coming this November. The job is part-time because there are literally 3 of us retired teachers who are trying to piecemeal this position together so we can cover a first grade classroom. More importantly than it affecting us, it's affecting the first graders who are going to have to transition to what is a key year of their learning to wait for their quote unquote real teacher to come back from maternity leave. How many other classes is this happening to? Jobs that haven't been filled yet or are on medical leave and family leaves. How many positions are going unfilled each day and others are missing out on their planning time to cover a class? Sorry. Last Friday, there were 105 postings that were unfilled in this district. How many teachers lost their planning time Friday? How many kids had classes covered? They deserve better. We need someone with a voice to reach out and try and make changes. Thank you.
After Stephanie will be Elizabeth O'Leary.
It's bees, like bumblebees. I want to start with a huge appreciation to you all for the dedication you showed when you gave us our 8% COLA increase. Last year at a La Follette listening session, I came to you very pregnant asking for the COLA increase. And this raise made the difference between being able to afford 2 kids under 3 in daycare or having to stay home because my salary wasn't worth it, which was actually what our accountant told us. Wasn't worth the childcare expense. The kids are thriving at daycare. I was able to return to the classroom and we all have runny noses. I came to ask for student-centered staffing. We need to rework our class size policy. This year at Elvium, I have 26 second graders, 16 of which are boys. I love my boys, but I often feel like I'm coaching a tackle football team while also trying to teach them sentence structure. Last year, these same kids were also 26 because one of our first grade teacher positions was never filled. So here's what it looks like. We don't all fit on the carpet. There's nowhere in the room we can circle up for crew, which is our EL morning meeting. We stretch an entire hallway, so turn a corner and I've lost them. My literacy small groups are 8 to 9 students, small groups, 8 to 9 students. I had to extend my rainbow table with desks to fit them all. We've had to split our classes and use support staff for core so that all students can access that instruction in a meaningful way. I had to take out all my flexible seating. There's no way to use, I have half-size yoga mats for yoga brain breaks, which I love to lead, and I can't do it. There's no space. I'm taking next week morning crew to discuss body space and that everyone has a bubble. Students are constantly asking to use my 1 pair of noise canceling headphones because when we do math workstations or games, I've had kids in tears because it's too loud, but they should be able to play. They need to be able to talk and play games without it getting too loud. And with that many bodies in a room, it's not possible. It's so hard to build meaningful relationships with kids and their families when there's 26 of them. I keep tripping over kids. Seriously, the other day I fell onto one kid trying to avoid stepping on the hand of another when I was trying to walk across the carpet. Like, it's that tight. I could be a master at classroom management and still have a hard time with this. And the feeling of that I know what a child needs. I know what they need, and you don't have time in your day to give them what they need because there's too many of them. It is devastating. It is so hard. So I hope the board can work to encourage meaningful and effective handbook discussions to address our class size policy, because our current policy is not sustainable, and we should not have to choose between good class sizes and a cost of living. It shouldn't have to be a choice. We're losing families and we're losing quality staff and to the private sector and other schools because this is too hard. And you guys, I'm tired. It's a lot of kids, but I love them. So thank you for your time.
After Elizabeth, we will go with Leland Pan.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth O'Leary. My pronouns are she, her, and I am a fourth grade teacher at Hawthorne Elementary. I'm speaking on behalf of myself tonight, but I also serve as MTI Board of Directors Secretary. I'm here tonight to talk about MTI's demands for the 2023-24 school year. I consider myself a warm demander in my classroom. We used that term a few years ago. I hold my students to high expectations because I believe in them and I see their excellence. And so I'm looking at you tonight, and I'm going to continue to hold you to high expectations so that our schools can thrive for our kids. It might feel like a lot of pressure to have us here tonight. I was hoping for more people for the rally, but the rain was drowning us out, like we can't all show up all the time and we're all exhausted. But we're here tonight, and I hope that you listen to us and you feel the love in our hearts why we're here. I'm here because I believe in public education in Madison. I'm here because I believe in my students, and I believe that this district can make some changes to really impact our students. We have 3 demands this year. Number 1, student-centered staffing. You'll hear a lot about class size tonight. One thing about class size that I struggle with is transparency and communication. Teachers and staff in schools are given no communication about this. It's like our principals, it seems to me like they're going and begging and then they're getting no, and there's no communication with us. If we had communication between schools, if we understood the needs of each other's schools and different things, it might be a different conversation and we might be able to problem solve together, but there's no communication from our leaders about that. We're asking for 1 social worker, 1 counselor per 250 students. We're asking for 1 psychiatrist per 500 students and 1 nurse for 500 students. This barely meets our students' basic needs, those things. And I'm going to keep going because I'm trying to say the time. Number 2 is respect for staff's time. 75% of our planning time should be ours. I love forming connections with families and kids and making my classroom a space where kids can just feel welcome and loved. And part of you allowing us to have autonomy is you trusting us. If you want us to trust in you, you have to trust in us that we are doing what's best for our kids during that time. I don't need to sit through another PD about something that doesn't really matter. And I care so much about curriculum. I care so much about the I can statements, JK. But seriously, I just want time to do what's best for my kids. And I don't always feel that way. Fair pay. COLA is not a raise. COLA is so I can live in Madison. I want to say that. We deserve contract pay outside of our duties. When we're staying after to run an event, when we're having IEP meetings, we deserve our contract pay. Any other job, you would get that. We do not. Lastly, I want to say to our board and the district, please think about being proactive. Many of these things we're asking for is for you to change policies to do that and to be transparent with us. We need more communication. I'm going to continue to push for the schools that our kids deserve, and I'm going to continue to push our union to be the union that our staff deserves. Thank you.
Thank you. After Leland, we will have Andrea.
Hey all, Leland Pan, school social worker at La Follette High School. I'm here to speak on specifically the demand that Elizabeth so eloquently presented around respecting staff time. Those of you who know me know I could go on about systemic oppression or anything like that. So I'm going to try to keep it very micro today and talk about our role in student services. So an example of respecting staff time is recently some of us in student services have submitted a petition with some of our district administration asking to revert the changes around roll-alike time, right? So our roll-alikes were moved from in-person to Zoom. They were moved from differing days to all the same day. And this is something that we were not consulted on in student services, those of us on the front lines, and also is something that is detrimental to our day-to-day abilities and something we could have expressed if we were communicated with. So the time we have together, first of all, right now, with all of us being in roll-alike on Zoom, of course, this means that many of us being like handling crises in the building are not able to engage. The roll-alikes are less meaningful. We have to find other times to collaborate anyway. So it's really taking time out. Us high school social workers met today because our roll-alike time does not give us time to like engage. So if the intention is for us to be in the building more, it's actually doing the opposite. And the other aspect, like there crises in the building, right? If all of our roll-alikes at the same time, psychs, counselors, social workers, right? Like what if, we're the ones that are first response if a student is suicidal, for example, right? So it becomes extremely difficult to have us engage in our roll-alikes effectively when we sort of manage these crises in the building. And for them to all be on Monday rather than differing days that don't overlap with each other. And also say, like, for me personally, the roll-alikes are in person are very important for that collaboration time, right? Something that weighs on me about my job is being the point of contact for all of our homeless students. As I'm sure you're well aware, we have a lot in Madison. I'm gonna guess a lot of our buildings are between 5 and 10% homeless. So and homeless families often exist in a very difficult situation where the rules don't exactly seem to work, right? So being able to problem solve these difficult situations with my peers, most of whom are far more experienced than me, is very useful to ensure that our families are getting support they need and have the creative problem solving needed to help them address these systemic issues. Homeless families are often not just in one school. They often, they have siblings. I want to collaborate with the middle and elementary school social workers around them. I want to collaborate with the high school social workers when my students move to another high school. So that's just an example of why respecting staff time is so important. And I hope that applies to not just student services, but all MMSD staff. Thank you.
All right, Andrea Massarelli, and then we will have our final speaker, which is Caitlin Lodal.
All right. Hi, I'm Andrea Mazzarelli. I'm a teacher here in MMSD at Wright Middle School. I'm also vice president of MTI. I want to talk about our subbing crisis. Back in the day, I subbed when it was a rite of passage to secure a position here in MMSD. I could earn paid sick leaves. It was easy. I got insurance through the district. It was easy to qualify. And the pay was significantly higher than subbing in any surrounding areas. Now, that is not the case. Now there is no paid sick leave for subs who are in our schools with kids who have snot coming down their noses and are getting sick from them. It is hard to get insurance, and they've changed the process with retiree staff and how they use the insurance, and has complicated things. A quote from a retired teacher a couple weeks ago: "I just resigned from subbing because the district's made the insurance process hard and it's not worth it to sub again here." 3, surrounding areas now pay higher, especially if there are retired staff to come back and sub, because they know they've already trained them in all these PDs and how much knowledge they have to bring back. We need to bring back paid leave, make it easier to qualify for insurance with the district, and raise the pay so that people want to be subs here. We need to do more to attract these subs and to attract retired staff to want to come back and sub, because we are in the subbing crisis. Our students deserve to have the correct staffing for safe environments in our schools. I'm also going to ask our superintendents and school board and everyone here to advocate for legislation change around the retired staff only allowed to work 880 days in the 365-day calendar. When you guys go to retreats with Waukesha and all over the state, other board superintendents, and you have meetings, okay? I'm hoping that you guys will talk to them. Hey, hit up your legislative people, hit up Evers, whoever's in your area, because this needs to change. We are in this substitute crisis because of the law they passed 12 years ago that fixed the amount of time. And it's about time that they change it and help schools if they say they're pro schools. I hope everybody, I'm asking everyone in here, if you'll write to Evers or your state legislators in efforts to help fix this crisis that they created so that we can have more subs in our schools every day. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Caitlin Lodahl, and I teach second grade at Orchard Ridge Elementary, but I'm here on behalf of the Lindbergh 4K program, whose concerns echo a lot of the 4K I've heard around the district and teachers in general. So with the increase in needs, both special education and ELLs in our class, and with class sizes remaining high, we can't serve our students and differentiate the way we could if our sizes were smaller. And we all know that many students come in unidentified to 4K every year, adding to this issue. We are serving a new generation of students now. A class size of students these days looks and feels different. We have high numbers of needs, both IEP and especially in English language learners, without adequate support and many times no support. There's also a sense of pressure from the district to have gen ed teachers take on roles of special education teachers when they are not being supported, or to support English language learners from multiple cultures and languages. 4K does not traditionally receive English language learner support. SEA support in 4K can also be inconsistent, again, adding to the teacher's plate. This is becoming increasingly exhausting and unsustainable. What used to be the job of multiple people has continued to be added to the gen ed teacher's plates. Lastly, the ability to connect and create impactful relationships with students and their families is challenging with the high class size numbers. It has become harder and harder to find enough time in the day to connect to each student and feel like you have made an impact. We are exhausted and we need support and lower class sizes. Thank you.
Thank you to all of our speakers tonight. We appreciate you bringing forward your comments and issues. All right, we're gonna move on to the minutes. I move that the Board of Education approve the minutes from the regular meeting, August 28th, 2023.
Second, Maya.
Any discussion or corrections on the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye. All right, that passes 7-0. Board President's announcements. Vice President Pearson, why don't you get us started?
Celebrating our schools. National Arts and Education Week was September 10th through the 16th. And MMSD Board of Education acknowledges the arts' importance and power in our schools. We appreciate the efforts of our staff who continuously inspire our students to develop a love for the arts. We are constantly impressed by the limitless abilities of our students. And we are grateful to our community for understanding the value the arts brings to our schools. Also celebrating our community, MMSD proudly celebrates National Hispanic Heritage Month from September 15th to October 15th. We recognize Hispanic Americans' important contribution and influence on our history, our culture, and achievements. This year's national theme, Todos somos uno. We are one. Reinforces the diversity inherent within the Hispanic and Latino population and the power that comes from being a united community.
And for upcoming events, we'd like to share with our community 2 events that are taking place on Friday, September 29th. That is this Friday. Ezekiel Gillespie Middle School will hold their official school renaming ceremony and celebration for students, families, and staff during the school day. And then later on that same day on Friday, we will host a ribbon cutting ceremony at Mansfield Stadium. The stadium updates are thanks to our community's overwhelming support of the 2020 facilities referendum. This event is prior to the Madison West versus Memorial varsity football game, with gates opening at 5:45 p.m. and the ribbon cutting beginning at 6:30. Come on out. All right. We also have an update on the superintendent search, and we actually have Monica Rosen, who is with the Alma search firm, the Alma Group, who's our search firm, to provide an update. I think we have slides for Monica.
We do. Hi there. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Yep, we hear ya.
Okay, excellent. I will be very brief. Thank you all board members for welcoming me this evening. We're so excited to be coming to visit next week. So we wanted to give you a quick update on what we've done since the last time we were here, and the work that's happening next week, so that the community, as many members of the community, can come out and participate as possible. First, we always start with our shared purpose, which here is to recruit, screen, and select the next superintendent of Madison Metropolitan School District. And the board has stated a purpose to lead a transparent and accessible process, guided by the needs of the greater Madison communities and designed to mitigate bias every step of the way. We've had several strategies in place to ensure both engagement and transparency. We have engaged community voice early to inform the entire process. I'll share a little bit about what we've done so far, looking at multiple ways of meeting with stakeholders, both virtually and in person, and providing true accessibility to each of our sessions with our community. We also have a community survey that's in place, and we'll be connecting with the board to seek meaningful participation of the community at the finalist stage in the process. A quick check on where we are in our process. We really are at the heart of the communication and community engagement phase of our process. We spent the summer really planning for the meetings that are going to take place next week. We expect to return to the board most likely in late October to share the results of what we learned in this process. We expect November and December to be the prime time for us to recruit and begin screening candidates. Our hope is to reach a semifinalist stage somewhere between December and January. Our desire is to reach the finalist stage in February, with your final superintendent selection to be announced in March. So we actually began meeting with stakeholders over the summer months, and we've already had 30 community engagement conversations. These have included conversations with community groups, with staff members of the district, families, and community partners. So in total, we've met with at least 52 individuals already. Next week, Monday through Wednesday, we will be on site and we will be engaging in in-person meetings. Right now, we've connected with the organizations that are up here on this slide. It includes leaders from the Madison Public Schools Foundation, the Mayor's Office, the Madison Teachers Union, a number of staff employee associations and unions, and community groups that are focused on serving students in foster care, students with disabilities and special needs, as well as the LGBTQIA+ community. We've also met with parents and parent groups who support students with IEPs and students with diverse learning needs. So these conversations have been eye-opening and insightful already. We're grateful for the time that everyone's already spent with us. And we've been sending out additional communications to each of these groups to ask for their assistance in really helping to spread the word for our community gatherings that will take place next week. Our survey is off and running. So far, we've received 1,430 survey responses. So we're now doubling down on our efforts to increase the number of Spanish speaking and Hmong speaking completed surveys. Over 50% of the respondents already are parents and or residents in Madison, and 27% of the respondents so far are teachers or licensed staff. So we're going to be bringing back to the board disaggregated data about what is being shared in the surveys. Individuals are, taking the time to really share with us their point of view on the direction they want the district to take from here and what's important for us to consider as we're recruiting your next superintendent. So next week, we have 3 community sessions that are planned on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. All 3 are at 6 p.m. We wanted to give people time to get there in the evening. On Monday, we'll be at the Holtzman Building, 333 Holtzman Road. On Tuesday, we'll be at La Follette High School at 702 Flom Road. And then on Wednesday, we'll be at Vel Phillips Memorial High School. So we really wanted to get to the different communities in Madison. We invite everybody to participate. Please help us spread the word. We want to speak with as many people as possible. We will have light refreshments available as well as childcare. And we are providing a calming space as well. We will also have translation services and American Sign Language interpretation. So we're really trying to make the space as welcoming as possible and as inclusive as possible because all voices are just so important in this process. So we will be facilitating these sessions next week. We're really looking to continue to promote the survey as much as possible. And we are coming to the board meeting on October 17th. Our goal is by the end of October to finalize the job profile and then to work with the board to define the screening steps. So we are off and running. Anyone can find the survey on the MMSD website. There's a section that is reserved for the superintendent search. And we're really looking forward to continuing to hear from as many people as possible.
Thank you so much, Monica. Board members, does anyone have any clarifying questions that you want to raise at this point for Alma?
I just have a quick question if you can answer, just about the board's role in this piece so that folks are aware of how we kind of fit into these listening sessions.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I appreciate the question. It's really important to us that we can create safe space where people can share their lived experiences with us. The board is really supportive of these meetings. However, the board members are likely to be there at the very start in our meeting opening when we provide a quick overview of the process and that we're going through. And then board members will step away so that we can have really confidential conversation. We will break the groups into smaller groups. We have 4 facilitators from Alma, including myself, joining. So we'll start in one large space and then we will move out to smaller rooms so that we can engage in more intimate conversation with members of the community.
Thank you for that answer. And I'm actually really excited about that piece because I do think giving folks their authentic voice to be able to speak on how they want to speak without, the board or prying eyes, I think is super important. So thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, well, Monica, I want to thank you for all of the work that Alma's been doing. I'm feeling really hopeful that we'll see more survey responses come in. I'm hoping that every room and table is filled for those 3 days, starting Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week. Yeah, everyone's voices, opinions, and perspectives on this next superintendent that we hire is really critical. So I want to just thank you for taking the time to come and update the board as well as our general public.
Thank you, thank you. And thank you to each of you board members for all of your insights, the time you've spent with us to just, ensure that we're really thinking about this in alignment with your values. We look forward to seeing you all next week.
All right.
Take care.
All right. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to our superintendent for announcement and reports.
Thank you, Board President Nichols. And thank you, board members. And I also would like to thank our public speakers for sharing their thoughts with us tonight. So I'd like to begin remarks tonight by thanking our community. In 2020, we passed truly a historic referendum aimed at moving our school environments to 21st century standards and making meaningful and impactful change for both children and families in Madison. All of this exemplifies our belief in kids first. Next slide, please. So first, I want to talk a little bit about the two pieces to our referendum in 2020, and the first is the operations referendum. The operations referendum activities support the work that happens in the classroom. These buckets of work might not be as explicitly seen by our community, like some of our construction projects, but they are incredibly important to the academic growth of our students and support for our staff. Our operations referendum saw investments in full day 4K. Currently, we serve about 1,200 4K students each year. And I can remember that first day we served 4K, we served 280. So we have made a great increase in the number of 4K students that we're serving and investment in early childhood education. This year, our current full day 4K enrollment is actually 442 students, and 60% of that student population are students of color. As part of our operations referendum, we also pledged to attract and retain high quality teachers. And we are in a far better place this year than we have been in the past. And as I have talked with my superintendent colleagues across the state, our district is in a far better place than many districts in our surrounding areas. I'm really proud of our Board of Education and the commitment that they also made to invest in our teachers and staff in historic ways, including the 8% cost of living raise and fully funding another 2% raise for steps and lane advancements. We also approved a $5 an hour wage increase for employee units and additional $3.20 for our custodians. Another piece to the operations referendum I want to remind folks of is the changes we made around world language instruction. We added teachers to schools to the middle school level to ensure that all of our middle schools had adequate staffing in world language. This is an equity strategy for us because it allows middle school students to get those levels 1 and 2 of world language and then access advanced coursework in high school, such as AP language and world language, should they so desire in their schedule. We've also invested in funding tuition for up to 200 students to attend the Early College STEM Academy at Madison College. We have invested in K-5 social studies development around Native American education, K-12 social studies professional learning around Native American education, support for our Native American land acknowledgement, professional development around African American vocabularies and teaching African American histories and stories, newly updated middle school social studies courses, the addition of AP African American studies at our high school level, and the creation of restorative justice and multicultural spaces to serve as a bridge between schools and our diverse families and communities. So that is a huge impact on the operations side and the teaching and learning side. We have always said that our budget represents our teaching and learning priorities, and these are examples of how those priorities were lifted and implemented as a result of our referendum. So a little bit of an uplift around what's been happening with facilities. I know we've shared in weekly updates with the Board of Education, as well as in district newsletters and on our website. But I want to first and foremost start by recognizing MSCR and the work that our MSCR programming under the leadership of Janet Dyer has been having in our community in the beautiful new West Side facility that I know many of you visited during the open house about a month ago. Our facilities projects overall are about 75% complete, and we are tracking on schedule for everything to be completed by next summer. I want to thank our building services team who is here, and also our budget department as they work together to make sure our finances are on track. As we know, during COVID, we experienced inflation, high inflation related to construction. So we have had to pivot as a district and make sure that we were being fiscally responsible and completed our projects as expected. So it has been extraordinary for all of us to see these projects come to life. Many of you have celebrated that work, have visited those sites, including our Southside Elementary. And we know that there is more progress to come this year as we see many of those projects come to completion. So with that said, I am going to welcome our Assistant Superintendent Cindy Green up to talk a little bit about our recognition.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Interim Superintendent Quisted. As Lisa just mentioned, just a few weeks ago, we opened two beautiful buildings, Southside Elementary and Capitol High School. It's been quite a homecoming of sorts for these two schools and their communities to finally have these locations open. It's been amazing to see our scholars, our families learning and thriving in these new spaces. It's been a ton of hard work to get our staff to ensure that they can get their spaces ready and launch this school year. We've overcome those hurdles. We're grateful for the community for their investment in our 2020 referendum. I would be remiss if I didn't also acknowledge the hard work that our building services teams put in place, as well as all of our staff and our families, to ensure that all of our high schools, as well as these two new spaces, were ready to welcome students. The work's not done though. Hang in there, everyone. This school year, construction continues at our four comprehensive high schools, East, La Follette, Memorial, and West. Many of those spaces in our high schools have been completed, which keeps this momentum going while teaching and learning is still happening through this construction. For example, at Memorial High School, scholars are now able to access our new art spaces and our CTE spaces. La Follette, our old theater style room C17, has gone to this amazing new renovated C wing. Very soon, the new Regates pool will open at West High School. And at East, scholars have been learning in their renovated third floor science classroom. It truly has been amazing to see our high schools transform. We also acknowledge that overseeing a school during such heavy construction is no small task. Not only have our high school principals been taking care of thousands of students, hundreds of staff, welcoming families, but they've also been providing valuable insight and time into the construction process. Meanwhile, our two other principals at our new schools have been working for many months to transition into their buildings, their new locations for their students and their families. So for this month's Kids First Superintendent Recognition of Excellence, we are really excited to recognize 6 extraordinary leaders. Victor, principal of Capitol High, Matt Hendrickson, principal of Memorial High School, Dan Kiega, principal of West High School, Mickey Smith, principal of East High School, Candace Terrell, principal of Southside Elementary, and Matt Thompson, principal of La Follette High School. Please give a round of applause as I ask these 6 principals to come up to the stage and accept their certificates. Hold on, Miss Maxwell. Nick, congratulations. San Diego, we're in that region here. Right. I thought you, hold on. No, you got it right. No. Yep, go ahead, Victor, there you go, congratulations, and this must be you. West High School, congratulations. Go take a picture. All right, we are going to continue with superintendent's report with Cindy Green. One more acknowledgement, sorry, before we continue, Principal Terrell, I believe, is on the Zoom, so I wanted her to just pop on and also be recognized. No, she was, okay. She must have moved. All right, moving on. Thank you.
The last piece that I would like us to recognize and celebrate tonight, it is really the donation that we received as a district from Combat Blindness International. As a district, we are always humbled and grateful to donations and grants that are provided to the district. And these donations and grants, whether big or small, make a huge difference in the lives of our schools and the lives of families and students. So these donations are always included in our consent agenda, and we're creating a habit here of recognizing them during the superintendent's report during the full board meeting. So tonight we'd like to thank Combat Blindness International for their donation of $6,500 to our district health services department in support of glasses for our students. We know that getting glasses can be a financial barrier to some of our students, and this enables us to support our children in some of those very clear needs to help them to learn how to read and be students in school. So we want to thank Combat Blindness International for supporting our kids. and also thank folks that have other donations and grants that will show up on our consent agenda this evening. So that's about all. That's it for the report. Thank you. And thanks, Board President Nichols, for chairing the meeting tonight.
Thank you so much for your superintendent report. I'm really appreciating how each month you have decided to highlight and recognize some folks, which is a nice positive way to use some of your time. And I will also say, as people in the community drive by our comprehensive high schools and see the new elementary school, the facility work, I think, is easier for people to imagine and see what has happened with a 2020 referendum. Not as easy to always see what's been happening inside the district instructionally. So I really appreciate all of the things that you lifted up tonight around our instructional moves, how we're improving teaching and learning. We've been improving access and opportunities and resources because of the 2020 referendum and how that operating money has really helped to enhance opportunities and learning for students. So thank you so much for using your time to do that. All right, we are now going to move on to a report on items that proceeded through the instruction work group held on September 11th, 2023. And I pass it over to the chair of our instruction work group, Board Member Muldrow.
Thank you, Board President Nichols. Our most recent work group was a multi-area conversation that included transportation, a minor update, and I'm so sorry, I completely lost the primary area that we focused on in yes. Thank you. And the school improvement plan, so our SIPs. In the upcoming month, we'll be discussing special education and our recommendations from the Safety and Wellness Ad Hoc.
Thank you. Now moving on to report on items that proceeded through the operations work group held on September 18th, 2023. I'll pass it over to the chair of that work group, Board Member Castro.
Got it. Thank you. Our last operations work group meeting was held on September 18th, where we discussed, we had a run through of policy 1301. We talked about the board amendment process. Sorry, my computer is lagging out. We also talked about our debt service and our third Friday September count. Our next meeting will be held on, let's see here. Could someone help me out here? My board docs is timing out.
October 9th.
Yeah, our next meeting will be held on October 9th, where we will discuss the budget amendments that were submitted, as well as the final details of the budget as we get the final data from the third Friday September count.
Thank you. All right, we had no action items that proceeded through the instruction work group for the month of September. We do have one action item that proceeded through the operations work group held on September 18th. It's a resolution authorizing temporary borrowing in the amount not to exceed $60 million pursuant to section 67.128A1, which is Wisconsin statutes. So I move that the Board of Education award the $60 million tax revenue anticipation note to the lowest bidder, JP Morgan Securities LLC, at a total net interest cost of $2,024,266.67, which is a net interest rate of 3.83%. I need a second. Thank you, Board Member Vandermeulen. Any discussion? Board Member Muldrow.
I'd like to ask Bob around kind of what the implications of this interest rate are for the district.
Good evening. The implications of the interest rate are, it was actually less than we were expecting to be charged. It's a little bit more than we were charged last year, and we'll know as the year progresses. Part of the operations work group conversation was a historical look back at the cost. It cost us to borrow the cash that we need to make payments throughout the year. And then some of the interest earnings we make during the year on that cash as it's invested until we need it. We won't know that, but we anticipate similar earnings this year as we had last year. And so it will generate net income likely if the markets hold as we anticipate to be. And so it's a positive cost of doing business.
Thank you so much for explaining that. If this is less than we thought we would come in, how does that inform our budget? So when we're budgeting, I imagine we budget with kind of a hypothetical interest. Say we thought we were going to get a rate of 4.2%. There is a cost savings then related to getting a lower interest rate. How does that work?
Yeah, what we'll do, they were just sold this morning. So what we'll do is for the October budget that you will vote on at the October meeting, we will update our costed revenues based on these projections and based on past investment earnings from the city of Madison. And so we'll incorporate those earnings. So we haven't done that yet, but we will.
Thank you so much. That's it for my questions.
Sure.
Any other questions? All right, all those in favor, aye. All right, that passes. Thank you, 7-0. All right, our consent agenda. I move that the Board of Education adopt and approve all of the motions set forth in Section 10 of the electronic agenda prepared for September 26, 2023, regular school board meeting, exactly as said motions are written. By voting affirmatively on this motion, a board member expresses his, her, or their affirmative vote on each of the motions consolidated hereby, subject to any express separations that have been made by any member of the school board.
Second, Maya.
Thank you. Are there any separations tonight? Okay. Board Member Vandermeulen.
10.8, 10.12, 10.2.
Okay.
I'll also separate 10.11 and 10.18.
Okay, so 10.8, 11, 12, 13, and 18. Okay. All right, then all those in favor of the main motion, say aye. All right, thank you, 7-0. All right, let me get to 10.8. I move that the Board of Education approve an expenditure in the amount of $45,000 for the purchase of Beast Academy licenses using funds from the fiscal year 24 curriculum and instruction CRLM budget. Is there a second? All right, thank you, Board Member Vandermeulen.
Mike. Yes, sorry about that. I pulled this because although I read the memo, I'm still confused by the Beast Academy. Is it possible to have someone explain that again?
Okay, is there someone who could explain the Beast Academy?
Yeah, we will have Cindy Green. Thank you, Cindy.
Could you please repeat your question, Board Member Vandermeer?
Yes, I'm just confused. I'm confused on what it is and how it works.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. Thank you. So we use Beast Academy for two different purposes. It comes in an online platform and it also comes in a paper form of materials. It's used first to serve students that we are identifying as potential advanced learners that could benefit from an extension of materials. We're also using it in our general education classrooms as an opportunity for all students to have access to the resource as more supplementary to their core instruction. This year, our focus for advanced learning is really to ensure that we are identifying scholars that have been historically excluded. So we've expanded what we would like to use Beast Academy for.
Thank you. That's really helpful. That's all questions I have.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor, say aye. All right, passes 7-0. Thank you. All right, moving on to 10.11. Hold on, I gotta read the motion. Okay. I move that the Board of Education approve an expenditure not exceeding $92,388.83 for accelerated licensure in special education, ALSI. Cohorts 3 and 4 participants fall 2023 tuition using the 2023-24 funds from the Strategic Partnerships and Innovation operating budget.
Second.
Okay, who pulled
This one.
Okay, Board Member Pearson.
Yeah, so I was really excited to see this, and I went back and just looked at how much we've invested in this. But I did have a question just about the program in itself. I know that we've had many conversations around investment in PD, investments in teaching, investments in trying to ensure that we are building our own teachers, SEAs, and so forth. And so with that, I just wanted to ask, is there a requirement that the students who participate in these cohorts stay in MMSD? And if there is a requirement, and how long that requirement is, and how it kind of fits within our long-term strategy of retaining folks and helping folks get the licensures that they need.
Thank you, Board Member Pearson. Jen Shepke will come and provide some details around your question.
So yes, there is a requirement that folks have a service after they finish going through the ALSI program. Generally, it takes about 2.5 years in the current program sequence to finish ALSI. And then post certification, we ask that our participants then stay in the district as a CC teacher for 3 years of service, assuming there's positions available.
Okay, that answers that part of the question. And I guess I'm not sure who to direct this part of it, of just like how it fits into like just long-term planning and investments in staff. And then I did actually have another question that I just remembered. Of the cohorts that we've previously had, so this is like the 3rd and 4th cohort, how many folks have stayed in the program? And then also for the 1st and 2nd cohort, because I'm sure that they're probably done now and starting, are folks still here with us? And I don't know if you have that data, but I was just interested in that.
I don't have the data on the top of my head. I can get it for you.
Okay.
I can tell you that cohort 1 completed most of them following the cohort program sequence, because there's always individual differences. They generally completed it, and they are right now in their 3rd year of service.
Okay.
Cohort 2 just finished their UW coursework this summer, generally, and they are starting their 1st year of service.
Okay. And is there like, sorry, now I'm like interested, but are there, I know, I'm sorry. Are there like checks and balances also too? Because I think the reason why I'm asking this is because I know we haven't had the best record in retaining folks. We've invested in teachers, which we should, and we should invest in their education and their ongoing learning. But at the same time, we need people to stay here as well because it's a lot of money that we're investing in folks. So just if, I guess that's the reason why I'm asking the questions.
And I can get you the numbers. We have had a really good retention thus far with Alzi. We've also had a really good showing of diversifying the workforce. In special ed, diversification for us means people of color and also men.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Did you want me to answer that other question about the district or about the?
You can, if you are able to. If not, you guys can always get the.
Well, I think it'd be best if we can get it back to you because I'm not the only one who does grow your own.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you.
Any further questions? All right, all those in favor, aye. All right, that passes 7-0. Thank you. All right, 10.12. I move that the Board of Education approve an expenditure with Urban League of Greater Madison in an amount up to $211,028 to fund, eight schools of hope and MSCR after-school coordinators at Blackhawk, Cherokee, Jefferson, O'Keefe, Sherman, Senate, Toki, and Whitehorse Middle Schools for up to 20 hours per week for the 2023-24 school year, using funds from the fiscal year 24 MSCR operating budget. Is there a second?
Second, Nikki.
All right, Board Member Vandermeulen.
The reason I pulled this is because I know there'd been a lot of conflicting statements. First, we had the memo saying that that we were considering changing how we were doing Schools of Hope. Then we had the memo saying that we weren't changing the amount. So I just wanted some clarification if I can get it.
Okay.
Sure, I can provide clarification, and then if we have further questions, I know Janet is also in the audience. The memo that is on consent tonight does not reflect any changes to the partnership. We had discussed some changes. We have decided to make no changes for this year, and anything that really would require a further conversation can happen further down the road in partnership with the Urban League and the team. So the memo that you have reflects the same exact services that were reflected in the last partnership agreement with them.
Perfect. That was my main question. Just wanted to make sure 100% before I did that. So thank you.
Any further questions? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, aye. All right, that passes 7-0. 10.13.
Same reason, so I don't need to pull that anymore.
Okay, well, I'll still need to read the memo since it was separated. The motion. I move that the Board of Education approve an expenditure in the amount of $191,000 to support the Schools of Hope Middle School Tutoring Program with the Urban League of Greater Madison, using funding from the Department of Strategic Partnerships fiscal year 24 operating budget.
Second, Nikki Vandermeer.
All right, discussion? None. Oh.
My last question got answered in 10-12, so we are good.
All right, very good. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor, aye. All right, that passes 7-0. Thank you. All right, moving on to 10.18. I move that the Board of Education accept a grant in the amount of $221,820 from the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction Fresh Fruit and Fresh Vegetable Program to provide free fresh fruits. Oh, wow. Now that's a hard one. Okay. Free fresh fruits and vegetables to students in MMSD's participating schools for the 23-24 school year.
Second.
All right. Thank you. I don't remember who separated.
I separated it.
All right. Thank you, Vice President Pearson.
I just separated it just to give gratitude. I know that there has been a lot of teachers, a lot of families, a lot of students, a lot of our elected colleagues, pretty much our community just stepping up and really kind of advocating to ensure that kids had access to healthy fruits and vegetables, as well as our building services team, and trying to ensure that we had like salad bars for our schools and things like that. So, I just wanted to give a lot of gratitude for DPI for stepping up and answering the call and providing the funding to be able to do that for this school year. And I hope that it is a continuous gift and to us, so that we can continue this throughout future school years. So that's the reason why I pulled it. Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor of accepting the grant, say aye. All right, passes. Thank you, 7-0. We are now moving on to other reports to the board because we don't have any other items. City of Madison Education Committee, I can report that our committee will be meeting tomorrow, Wednesday, September 27th. And we had not had a meeting prior to now. So more updates coming after this September meeting. Student Senate, our student representatives are not present tonight, but it looks like in board docs, they held a meeting on September 20th. They covered Student Senate 101, a crash course in Robert's rules, their upcoming meeting schedule, open officer roles, and work groups that they will have for the 23-24 school year. And it looks like they have an upcoming meeting, which is also tomorrow on September 27th. All right, our Madison School and Community Recreation Advisory Committee, Board Member Mosner Feltham.
That's me. Our most recent MSCR Advisory Committee meeting took place on September 20th. We got a tour of the beautiful, fantastic MSCR West. The Friends of MSCR golf tournament raised $23,000 with over 100 golfers. And there's another opportunity through Friends of MSCR to participate in raising funds for Madison School and Community Rec. Since 2013, Friends of MSCR has given over $480,000 to MSCR, and the annual online silent auction will be November 6th through 17th. Donations are needed. So businesses who would like to donate to the auction can contact Martha Hutchinson at MSCR. And the other exciting thing that I thought was sort of a neat little statistic is that in the first 15 minutes of registration for fall programming, there were more than 4,000 registrations, and almost 12,000 registrations have been received for fall programming. The last thing I will say is that all FTE are filled at MSCR.
Thank you. Policy Committee. I think Vice President Pearson's given the update.
Yeah, so we have been working on our 13.01 policy on policies for us. And we are moving forward with our redlining and such, and hopefully soon to be able to vote on it. Yeah, sorry, we don't have it in the board docs, but we can send a little blurb for Jesse to update. Also, we are going to be meeting next Friday, our policy committee every other Friday, to discuss like planning, discuss what policies and such that we are going to move forward with. We do have a long list of policies that we need to update, and also policies where folks are able to bring forward. So we are working on the process on our policy on policies so that we can get the work done around policy. And I said policy multiple times. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Governance Committee, Board Member Simkin, we don't have anything to report this month unless you want to add anything.
I do not.
Okay. That concludes all of our business for tonight. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, all those in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Thank you. We are adjourned at 7:44.